What if the greatest gift you give yourself this Christmas is peace today? As the world slows down and Christmas brings its familiar quiet, we are reminded of a powerful truth. Life is shaped not by what we receive, but by what we choose to carry within us. This day, often filled with memories, expectations, and emotions, becomes an ideal moment to pause and reflect through the lens of Stoic wisdom. Christmas is not only a celebration of joy, it is an invitation to let go. Let go of the weight that has lived too long on your shoulders. Let go of the disappointments you replay in your mind. Let go of the fears that never came true. Let go of the people who walked away and the versions of yourself you no longer need to be. Letting go is not losing. It is returning your spirit to freedom. Stoicism teaches us that suffering grows when we cling to what is outside our control. But relief arrives the moment we release our grip on the past and accept life as it is. And so today, we also practice accepting. Accept the imperfect moments. Accept the unexpected changes. Accept the reality that life does not always match our plans, and that this is perfectly fine. Acceptance is not weakness. It is the courage to stand calmly in the truth. Christmas reminds us that even in moments of darkness, light always returns. Acceptance is that inner light, a steady flame that guides us through uncertainty. And from this letting go and this acceptance comes the final step, growing. Growth is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It happens in moments just like this, when we reflect with honesty, when we choose wisdom over reaction, when we rise above what once held us down. Growth is the gift you give yourself. So today, reflect on how far you've come. Honor the strength that carried you through the year. Forgive yourself for the mistakes you made while learning, and promise yourself that the next chapter will be led not by fear, but by clarity. Christmas Day becomes a powerful reminder. You cannot control everything. You cannot change everyone, but you can master your inner world, letting go, accepting, growing. This is the essence of a Stoic Christmas, not wrapped in paper, not found under a tree, but rising from within you. Choose peace today. Choose presence over pressure. Choose growth over perfection. And let this day be the beginning of a mind strengthened by wisdom, a heart freed from burdens, and a spirit ready for the journey ahead. Letting go frees the mind. It is one of the most powerful practices a person can learn, yet it is also one of the hardest. We cling to memories, people, expectations, and painful moments because a part of us believes that holding on will somehow protect us. But in reality, holding on is what keeps us stuck. It binds our energy to the past, drains our emotional strength, and prevents us from seeing the possibilities in front of us. Letting go is not about forgetting. It's not about pretending something never hurt you, and it is not about ignoring the lessons life has taught you. Letting go simply means choosing not to allow those moments to control your present state of mind. When you hold on to resentment, anger, or regret, your mind becomes heavy. You replay conversations. You revisit moments you wish had gone differently. You imagine outcomes that are no longer possible. All this mental activity gives you the illusion of control, but in reality it steals your peace. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that the mind becomes free the moment it stops wrestling with things that cannot be changed. The past cannot be rewritten, no matter how many times you relive it in your thoughts. People cannot be forced to behave exactly as you wish they would, and life cannot be shaped to match every expectation you create in your imagination. Letting go frees you because it brings you back to the present moment. It shifts your focus from what should have happened to what is happening right now. Many people don't realize how much of their mental suffering is caused not by life itself, but by resisting the reality of events that have already passed. Every time you let go of something that weighs you down, you make space for something better, clearer thinking, emotional calm, and a sense of inner balance. You begin to see opportunities you could not see before because your vision was clouded by emotional noise. Letting go also means releasing the idea that everything must make sense or be fair. Sometimes people hurt you without giving you closure. Sometimes situations end abruptly. Sometimes you give your best and still face disappointment. These moments may feel unjust, but holding on to them does nothing to change the outcome. It only keeps your heart trapped in a loop of suffering. Instead, letting go teaches you to accept that life isn't always logical, but it is always moving. And if you want to move with it, you must loosen your grip on the things that keep you pulled behind. One of the most misunderstood ideas is that letting go is an act of weakness. In reality, it requires great strength. It takes courage to release attachments you've carried for years. It takes discipline to stop feeding painful thoughts. And it takes wisdom to understand that peace is more valuable than control. When you choose to let go, you are choosing yourself. You are choosing your mental freedom, your emotional clarity, and your spiritual growth. Letting go also opens a path to forgiveness. Not necessarily forgiveness of others, but forgiveness of yourself. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone misjudges situations, trusts the wrong people, or stays longer than they should. Holding on to self-blame only keeps you tied to an older version of yourself. Letting go allows you to grow beyond it. It allows you to say, "I did the best I could with the knowledge I had at the time," and that is enough. In the end, letting go is not a single action. It is a practice, something you do repeatedly and intentionally. Each time you release a negative thought or a painful memory, your mind becomes a little lighter. You become more present, more grounded, and more in control of your inner world. Letting go doesn't mean losing. It means returning to who you truly are, unburdened, aware, and free. Acceptance brings inner peace. But many people misunderstand what acceptance truly means. It is not about agreeing with everything that happens in your life. It is not about liking every situation, approving every outcome, or pretending you feel nothing. Acceptance is simply the act of acknowledging reality without fighting it. It is the ability to see things as they are, not as you wish they were. This clarity is what creates calm, because the more you resist reality, the more tension you create within yourself. Most internal suffering comes from the gap between expectation and truth. You imagine things should happen a certain way, people should behave differently, or life should unfold according to your plans. When these expectations collide with reality, frustration grows. You wonder why things didn't go the way you wanted, why people didn't match your intentions, or why life feels unfair. But acceptance teaches you a more peaceful perspective. Things are not happening to punish you, they are simply happening. Your emotional reaction comes from your attachment to how you hoped they would be. When you accept a situation, you stop wasting energy fighting battles that cannot be won. Instead of saying, "This shouldn't have happened," you shift to, "This is what happened, so what can I do now?" That shift alone restores your sense of control. Acceptance turns chaos into clarity because it guides you toward what you can influence, not what you cannot. Acceptance also brings emotional balance. When you accept your feelings, whether sadness, anger, disappointment, or fear, you stop treating them as enemies. You allow them to exist without letting them dominate your mind. Many people suffer more from resisting their emotions than from the emotions themselves. They tell themselves, I shouldn't feel this way, and that resistance creates pressure. But when you accept a feeling, it becomes lighter. You recognize it as a temporary state, not a permanent identity. Another powerful aspect of acceptance is the liberation it brings from trying to change other people. Much of human frustration comes from expecting others to act according to your standards, your values, or your timeline. But every person has their own journey, their own perspective, and their own level of awareness. Acceptance teaches you to let people be who they are, even when it doesn't align with what you hoped. This doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect or harmful behavior. It simply means you stop exhausting your mind with unrealistic expectations. Accepting people does not mean allowing them to hurt you. It means seeing them clearly. When you accept someone's true nature, you make wiser decisions. You stop waiting for them to become someone they are not. You stop wishing for change that may never come. This clarity protects you, empowers you, and brings peace. Acceptance also includes accepting yourself. Many people carry silent battles, judging themselves harshly for past mistakes, flaws, or insecurities. They hold themselves to impossible standards, constantly expecting perfection. But self-acceptance is the foundation of inner peace. It allows you to acknowledge your strengths and weaknesses without shame. It gives you space to be human, to learn, to grow, and to improve at a natural pace. When you accept yourself, you stop fighting against your own identity. Another misunderstanding is that acceptance means giving up. In reality, acceptance is the starting point of meaningful action. You cannot change what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot improve something you deny. Acceptance gives you a clear, honest foundation from which to move forward. It removes illusions and emotional fog, revealing the truth of a situation so you can respond wisely instead of reacting blindly. Ultimately, acceptance frees your mind from unnecessary suffering. It helps you stay grounded in the present instead of being trapped in regret or fear. It gives you emotional stability when life becomes unpredictable. It aligns your actions with reality, making you stronger and more resilient. When you learn to accept life as it unfolds, you stop fighting the current and begin flowing with it. This is where peace lives, not in controlling everything, but in meeting each moment with clarity, openness, and calm. Acceptance transforms life from a battlefield into a journey, one you can walk with wisdom and inner strength. Growth is a quiet inner process. It doesn't arrive with noise, applause, or celebration. It doesn't announce itself with sudden transformation. Instead, it happens slowly, silently, in the small decisions you make daily, in the subtle shifts of your thinking, and in the way you start responding differently to the same challenges that once overwhelmed you. Growth is not something you chase, it is something you allow. It unfolds naturally when you create the right conditions within yourself. Many people imagine growth as dramatic progress, big achievements, sudden confidence, or complete change. But real growth is far more subtle. It begins in the moments no one sees. The times you choose patience over anger. The times you walk away instead of arguing. The times you forgive instead of holding on. The times you sit with your emotions instead of running from them. Growth doesn't demand attention. It simply becomes part of who you are. You realize you've changed not because someone told you, but because you feel lighter, clearer, and more in control of your inner world. Growth often begins with discomfort, When something challenges your beliefs, your habits, or your emotional patterns, your mind resists. You may feel confused or lost. But these uncomfortable moments are the soil where growth takes root. Just like a seed breaks apart to sprout, you also break old patterns to grow. This breaking is not destruction, it is transformation. It is the process of shedding the old version of yourself so a stronger, wiser version can emerge. Another truth about growth is that it is rarely visible in the moment. You only recognize it when you look back. You notice how much calmer you respond now. You notice how things that once hurt deeply no longer affect you the same way. You notice how your priorities shift, how your thoughts become clearer, and how your sense of self becomes more stable. Growth is like a sunrise. You don't notice each ray of light, but slowly the whole sky changes. Growth also requires honesty. You cannot grow if you lie to yourself about your actions, your emotions, or your mistakes. Facing your truth is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. You must be willing to admit where you need improvement, where your ego stands in the way, and where you've been holding on to negative patterns. This honest self-reflection is the foundation of transformation. It becomes the mirror that helps you understand who you are and who you want to become. Another essential part of growth is consistency. Progress is built through small daily actions, reading, reflecting, practicing discipline, choosing better habits, and correcting yourself when you fall. It doesn't matter if the steps are small. What matters is that they are steady. Even the tiniest effort moves you forward. The Stoics believed that excellence is not a one-time event, but a daily practice. Each moment becomes an opportunity to learn, to improve, and to strengthen your character. A powerful sign of growth is emotional maturity. When you stop taking everything personally, when you let go of the need to control others, when you stop reacting impulsively, you are growing. When you understand that your peace is more important than winning an argument, you are growing. When you choose silence over unnecessary conflict, you are growing. Emotional maturity is not about suppressing feelings, it is about understanding them and responding with wisdom instead of impulse. Growth also involves letting go of the version of yourself that was shaped by pressure, fear, or insecurity. You begin to release the false identities you created to please others. You stop trying to fit into places you've outgrown. You stop accepting less than you deserve. This part of growth can feel lonely because not everyone will understand or support your transformation. But growth requires courage to walk away, courage to evolve, courage to choose yourself. Most importantly, growth is a lifelong journey. There is no final destination where you become perfect. Every day offers a new lesson, a new challenge, and a new opportunity to improve. The more you grow, the more you realize how much potential still remains within you. Growth is not loud. It is quiet, steady, patient, and powerful. It is the inner unfolding of your true self, the slow building of strength, clarity, and wisdom. And with every small step you rise not by force, but by becoming aligned with who you are meant to be. You control your inner world, and this truth becomes clearer the more you observe how life works. External events may be unpredictable. People may disappoint you, situations may shift suddenly, and circumstances may rise and fall without warning. But your inner response, your thoughts, your attitude, your emotional reaction belongs entirely to you. This is the core of Stoic wisdom. The world outside is not in your command, but the world within you is. When you understand this, you become stronger, calmer, and more centered than you ever imagined. Most people spend their lives trying to control things outside their influence. They try to change people, force outcomes, or shape the future according to their desires. When these attempts fail, frustration grows. But the truth is simple: you cannot control what others think, say, or do. You cannot control how life unfolds. You can influence, guide, or prepare, but ultimate control lies beyond your reach. Recognizing this is not defeat. It is liberation. It frees you from wasting energy on battles you can never win. What you can control are your judgments. The way you interpret events shapes your emotional experience far more than the events themselves. Two people can face the same situation, yet one remains steady while the other collapses. The difference is not in what happened, but in how they processed it. When you train yourself to pause before reacting, to think before responding, and to observe your emotions without letting them dominate you, you gain mastery over your inner world. You become the guardian of your peace, rather than its victim. Another powerful aspect of inner control is learning to choose your focus. The mind goes where attention flows. If you focus on what's missing, life will always feel incomplete. If you focus on what's unfair, you'll always feel resentful. But if you focus on growth, gratitude, and the lessons within every experience, even difficult moments become meaningful. Your perspective becomes a tool, not a weakness. And with the right perspective, you can transform challenges into opportunities for strength. Your inner world is also shaped by the thoughts you choose to entertain. Not every thought deserves your energy. Some thoughts arise from fear, insecurity, or past experiences that no longer reflect who you are. When you learn to question your thoughts instead of blindly believing them, you protect your mind from unnecessary suffering. You begin to ask, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Does it align with the person I want to become? This mental discipline slowly rewires your inner environment. Emotionally controlling your inner world means you stop giving others power over your peace. People may say things that hurt, behave unpredictably, or act out of their own wounds. But their behavior does not have to dictate your emotional state. When someone triggers you, you have the ability to choose silence instead of reaction, calm instead of chaos, and wisdom instead of impulse. Emotional power is not about suppressing feelings, it's about not letting temporary emotions make permanent decisions. You also control your energy. Not everyone deserves access to your mind or your attention. Protecting your inner world means setting boundaries. Boundaries around conversations that drain you, people who disturb your peace, and habits that weaken your clarity. The more you protect your inner environment, the stronger your inner foundation becomes. Another crucial part of controlling your inner world is accepting responsibility for your actions. It's easy to blame others for stress or circumstances, but growth begins when you recognize that your choices shape your experience. Your habits, your mindset, your discipline all contribute to the quality of your inner life. When you take responsibility, you regain your power. You stop waiting for life to change and begin changing yourself. Ultimately, your inner world is your true home. It is where your peace lives, where your clarity grows, and where your strength is born. External events come and go, but inner control remains with you always. The more you invest in your inner world, the less the outer world can disturb you. This does not mean life becomes easy, it means you become strong enough to face it with calm, clarity, and confidence. Controlling your inner world is not about perfection. It is about awareness. It is about choosing responses instead of reactions, focusing on what matters, and protecting the peace within you. When you master your inner state, you unlock a level of freedom no one can take away. Forgiveness is a gift to yourself, a gentle release that frees your mind from the chains of the past. Many people believe forgiveness is something you give to others, an act of kindness toward someone who wronged you. But at its core, forgiveness is deeply personal. It is an act of self-liberation. When you forgive, you are not excusing what happened, nor are you forgetting it. You are simply choosing not to let old wounds continue ruling your thoughts, emotions, or identity. You are choosing peace over bitterness, clarity over resentment, and emotional strength over emotional imprisonment. Holding on to anger or regret may feel justified, especially when someone has deeply hurt you. But carrying that weight does nothing to heal you. Instead, it keeps you tied to the very pain you want to escape. Every time you replay the hurt in your mind, you reinforce it, you relive it, you reopen the wound. Forgiveness is the moment you finally say, I am done carrying this. I deserve better than this burden. It is not surrender. It is reclaiming your power. Understanding forgiveness also requires understanding the nature of human mistakes. Everyone, without exception, acts out of fear, ignorance, insecurity, or confusion at times. People hurt others not always because they intend harm, but because they themselves are wounded or unaware. This does not excuse their actions, but it reminds you that expecting perfection from others is unrealistic. When you hold people to impossible standards, you trap yourself in a cycle of disappointment. Forgiveness helps you step out of this cycle and see others as flawed humans just like you, learning and stumbling through life. But forgiveness is not only about others. One of the hardest forms of forgiveness is forgiving yourself. People carry guilt for years, sometimes decades. They replay mistakes, blaming themselves long after everyone else has moved on. But guilt, when held too long, becomes self-punishment. It keeps you stuck in the past, unable to grow into the person you could become. Self-forgiveness allows you to acknowledge your mistakes without letting them define you. It lets you say, I acted from the level of awareness. Add then. I can learn from it, grow from it, and do better. That shift transforms guilt into wisdom. Forgiving yourself doesn't mean ignoring accountability. It means taking responsibility with kindness instead of cruelty. You learn the lesson, you correct your actions, and you move forward with renewed clarity. When you accept that imperfection is part of being human, you stop treating your flaws as failures and begin treating them as opportunities for growth. A powerful truth about forgiveness is that it does not require reconciliation. You can forgive someone and still choose not to invite them back into your life. You can release emotional weight without reopening a door that should remain closed. Forgiveness is internal. It happens within your heart, not in someone else's awareness or approval. Sometimes the person who hurt you will never apologize, never understand, or never change. Your healing cannot depend on their awareness. Your freedom must come from within. Forgiveness also protects your inner world. When you hold on to resentment, your mind becomes clouded, your heart becomes heavy, and you lose energy to things that no longer matter. But when you forgive, your emotional landscape becomes clearer. You create space for joy, growth, and peace. You stop pouring emotional energy into what cannot be undone. Instead, you redirect that energy toward building a stronger future. Forgiveness strengthens you in ways anger never can. Anger burns hot and fast, but forgiveness brings lasting calm. Anger tightens your chest, but forgiveness lets you breathe deeply again. Anger keeps you trapped in the story of what happened, but forgiveness helps you write a new chapter. It shifts your identity from someone who was hurt to someone who rose above. Ultimately, forgiveness is a discipline. It is not something you do once. It is something you practice every time old memories return, every time resentment tries to rise again. With each act of forgiveness, you become lighter, stronger, and more in control of your inner world. To forgive is to free yourself. It is choosing peace over pain, growth over stagnation, and emotional clarity over emotional chaos. It is giving yourself the gift of release, the gift of moving forward with an open heart and an unburdened mind. Presence over perfection is a way of living that brings clarity, peace, and meaning into your life. In a world where people are constantly pressured to meet expectations, compare themselves to others, and chase flawless outcomes, presence becomes a rare but powerful refuge. Perfection is an illusion, something that always seems just out of reach, no matter how hard you try. But presence is real. It exists in every breath, every moment, every experience. When you choose presence over perfection, you stop trying to force life into an ideal shape and instead begin experiencing it as it truly is. Perfection creates anxiety. It convinces you that you must always do more, achieve more, or become more before you can feel worthy. It traps you in self-doubt, making you believe that every mistake is a failure and every imperfection is a flaw. But presence invites you to slow down. It invites you to breathe and notice the world around you. It reminds you that life is happening right now, not in some imagined future where everything finally aligns. Presence shifts your mindset from "how can I be perfect?" to "how can I be aware?" When you focus on being present, you allow yourself to fully experience life. You stop judging every moment and start observing it. You stop overthinking and start listening. You stop trying to control everything and start allowing things to unfold naturally. This shift reduces stress and replaces tension with calm. It helps you appreciate simple moments, quiet mornings, meaningful conversations, small acts of kindness, and the gentle rhythm of ordinary days. Presence also strengthens your emotional resilience. When you are grounded in the moment, you respond to situations with clarity instead of reacting with fear or impulse. Perfectionism pushes you to avoid mistakes at all costs, but presence teaches you that mistakes are simply part of the journey. They are opportunities to learn, to improve, and to build strength. When something goes wrong, perfection says you failed. Presence says, let's understand and grow. This compassionate approach makes you emotionally stronger, not weaker. Another important aspect of choosing presence over perfection is releasing the need to impress others. Many people chase perfection because they fear judgment. They worry about how they look, what others think, and whether they appear successful. But presence teaches you that your life is not a performance. It is an experience. When you are fully present, you stop living for approval and start living for purpose. You give yourself permission to be authentic, honest, and human. This authenticity attracts the right people, opportunities, and energies into your life because you are no longer hiding behind unrealistic standards. Presence also deepens your relationships. When you are focused on perfection, your mind is scattered. You are thinking about the past, the future, or your shortcomings. You are physically present but mentally absent. But when you bring your full awareness to a moment, you connect deeply with others. You listen more attentively, speak more thoughtfully, and understand more clearly. People feel seen, heard, and valued. This creates stronger bonds and more meaningful interactions. Choosing presence over perfection is also an act of self-kindness. It means accepting yourself as you are, imperfect, evolving, and learning. It means embracing your flaws rather than hiding them. It means recognizing that growth is more valuable than perfection. When you are present, you stop judging yourself harshly. You treat yourself with patience. You allow yourself to be a work in progress, and you celebrate the small steps forward instead of waiting for the perfect moment to feel proud. Presence brings peace. Perfection brings pressure. Presence opens your heart. Perfection closes it. Presence connects you to reality. Perfection disconnects you from it. When you choose presence, you feel the richness of each moment, the warmth of sunlight, the softness of silence, the comfort of stillness. You begin to understand that life is not measured by flawless achievements, but by meaningful experiences. Ultimately, presence over perfection is a mindset, a practice, and a way of living. It requires slowing down, letting go of unrealistic standards, and embracing the beauty of the present moment. It is about being grounded in what is real, not what is ideal. As you practice presence, you begin to find joy in simplicity, strength in awareness, and peace in being exactly where you are. You no longer chase an unattainable standard. Instead, you walk through life with an open mind, a steady heart, and a deep sense of inner calm.